What's up, Facebook? What's up, YouTube? Your girl is out. We're everywhere today. For those of you who don't know by now, I have figured out how to run 3 lives at one time, and it's very exciting in case you've missed any of my other lives. So if you ever hear me say YouTube or Instagram or Facebook and you're like, what? I'm not there. Just know that I'm just talking to myself and everyone else. Good morning. Good morning. Drop some hearts in the comments if you're here with me this morning. If you're going to catch the replay, then just drop #replay. Got my cozy fuzzy black sweater on this morning because it's chilly, even though it's supposed to be 81 degrees later. And also I got this new shirt this weekend. I love it. I love the daffodils and the butterflies. Also, the colors make me really happy. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. I know today's President's Day too, so a lot of you guys are not maybe necessarily working, which is fun. Hi, babe. Good morning. Happy Monday. All right. So whether or not you're here with me live, like I said, just drop the #replay when you pop in. I'm going to go ahead and get started so that I'm not here for 45 minutes. So today is really not a class per se. Today I just wanted to get on here and talk to my girls who have really connected with me in the last year or so. I've been here online as the Glow Up Coach for about a year and a month, 2 months almost actually. And I have learned a lot about the coaching space, a lot about humans and how we interact. Specifically, how we interact with each other online is actually much different than how we interact with each other in person, because of how it affects our nervous system. I've learned a lot about how people can work with you in person and never see a pound lost, and work with you online and not only lose weight, but also change their whole life. I have learned how important our self-belief and self-worth is. And I'm going to talk at that particular piece in detail, because I think that there's a lot of things around that we tend to bypass, right? So I grew up with depression that manifests through depression and anxiety, when I'm not doing the things I need to do to take care of myself, right? I know that I was lucky from the sense that I had parents who were in the military, so I had really great healthcare. I had access to counselors. I had a mother, a stepmother who was an RN who specialized in mental health. So she knew what signs to look for. I started going to therapy when I was like 7 or 8 years old. And I've been in and out of therapy a few times in my life. I love therapy. Therapy is a great tool. Please never, ever, ever, ever deny yourself the gift of therapy if you can afford it and if it's accessible to you. Okay. And if you can do it multiple times in your life, please do. The integrity learn about ourselves along the way are amazing, which is also why coaching can be so life-changing, right? Because in a way, as a coach, I am kind of like a therapist. I'm working with you for an extended amount of time. And in that extended amount of time, the difference between a counselor and I is I don't have the PhD. And we're looking at very specific issues to work together on, right? Typically, you're coming to me to lose a certain amount of weight or to put on a certain amount of muscle or to look at some nervous system things. I know it's been kind of newer in my content, but I went last year and really dove deep into like the nervous system and somatics and how energy gets stuck in the body, because I was one of those people who had emotional energy stuck in my body and I could not lose weight because of it. There are life circumstances, and I want to address this right off the bat because it's very important. And I am never, ever, ever going to tell someone that no matter what, you're capable of the same exact thing that I am capable of. I use my story to translate the message, which is that you can change your life. If you are someone who's always identified as the weird one, the odd one out, I prepped you guys for this live with that kind of tone, right? We were talking about feeling like I'm the only one, feeling like I'm the only one who hears things, feeling like I'm the only one who sees things. I'm kind of the weird one. And we're going to talk about that here in a second, but I really want to drive home the fact that like your journey is going to look much different than my journey, even if I'm giving you the same groundwork. Even if I'm telling you this is the step I took, this is the step I took, this is the step I took, and you take the same exact steps, it's going to look different on you because you are an individual. You are an individual soul having a human experience. So yes, some of these things apply to all of us. And when I say certain things, I want you guys to know that I'm never bypassing trauma. I'm never bypassing certain mental illnesses. I'm never bypassing your socioeconomic situation. I literally am just honing in on one point at a time because it can be way too much for our brains in this online space to try to talk about everything. And talking to trauma online, like, whoa. A lot of us don't need to be doing it in the first place because a lot of us are replaying our own trauma in our head often enough. But then on top of that, people misconstrue meanings and people can see you saying something and think, well, that's just a very black and white way to think. And you're not even considering all of these other things. And it's like, no, of course I am. Of course I am, because I also have my own other things. But what I'm saying is there's one common denominator, and the common denominator is what we all have the power to change, right? So I'm never telling you, oh, all you have to do is change your language, change your life. No, dude, like, come on. I know that it's much deeper than that. If anybody, know that it's much deeper than that, right? I know that you have to change not just your habits, you have to change what your priorities are in your life. You have to shift certain where you spend your money, right? With finances are something that I had to look at when going on this journey and like really changing my lifestyle. I had to reestablish where my boundaries were with my money and where my money was going, right? And the same thing goes for my energy. So I just wanted to address that first, partly because it was on my mind anyways, and I never want anybody to think that I'm coming from a place of like, I don't care about your situation. You need to fix it better. But also there was a comment made on a post of mine recently for sounding like I'm being toxically positive, toxic and judgy with my positivity. And that is never the intention. So I just wanted to drive home the fact that we're going to be talking about very specific parts of this journey, but there's a lot that we get to cover really when we get into this. And that was the whole point, is that today I'm going to be discussing with you how to shift your fitness and spirit, mental, screen went blank for a second. Okay, we're back. Into a spiritual, mental, and emotional container for growth. Because it is possible and you can do it, but it's not easy. And I don't think it's something that everybody catches on to, which is why certain people can say like, well, I'm in the gym 5 days a week and, I'm always eating clean, but energetically they aren't clear. And so the energetic channels, like literally on a scientific level, you guys, okay? Here's the thing. With spirituality, we're like, oh, it's all woo-woo. No, man, this is real science. It's derived from the same science that we derive fitness advice from. We're just looking at a different part of the body, a different part of the body that's not your 3D body. It's the unseen body, it's the energetic body. Okay? It still has energy. It still has energy. And so those laws of science still apply, which is that energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be converted, right? We've been talking a lot about like the nervous system and stuff. So, in case you guys have missed it, one of my recent reels talks about energy, how energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be converted. That's why once you have fat, you cannot just burn it off, right? It just has to be converted. You can burn it in the sense that you can go to the gym and start putting muscle on, change your metabolism, right? But you can't just like cut it off. It can't just be gone right away. So spiritually, it's the same. Emotionally, it is the same. We experience emotions in our bodies, actually. So if we really want to get scientific about it, when you experience an emotion of anger, when you're mad, it usually shows up immediately right in your jaw. Your jaw, sometimes your eyes, but it's typically like this part of our body that responds. And if we never get that energy out, if we're never honest about what made us angry, or if we silence ourselves about part of that story, then we are literally keeping energy stuck in our jaw. I'm not saying that getting rid of energy is going to heal all of your TMJ issues. But if we learn to be cognizant of how that has played a role, then there's a possibility that yes, you could alleviate a lot of the pain, trauma, etc. Right? And I just wanted to use this as an example. Now, when we experience emotions of anxiety, we tend to tighten a lot in our throat. When we experience emotions or situations that cause trauma, like heavy amounts of trauma that then ripple into other parts of our lives. For instance, when we are young, if we experience abuse from our parent, well, now anybody that I let close to me, I'm going to have a hard time trusting, right? This is now a behavior that's programmed into me because of evidence. I have seen the evidence that even the people who are closest to me and me the most can hurt me the worst. So from that point on, our emotions like that are stored towards the root of our body. So hips, psoas, and I'm again talking scientifically, okay? Hips, psoas, glutes. So a lot of people will come to me and tell me, well, I've always experienced very tight glutes. And so then I can't get into my glutes and then I can't build my glutes, right? And what I find is a lot of the time, they also have some very deep childhood trauma. And until we start addressing that childhood trauma and how it affected their self-belief, self-worth, and self-expression, then there is no shifting of the body that can happen. So the body is always going to be the last thing to change. The 3D world, the images you see, the way that you feel moving through your life on a day-to-day basis, that's always going to be the last thing that changes. But we can start the change that we want to see from the inside. And so you can adjust how you talk to yourself. You can adjust how you express yourself. You can adjust the people around you. You can adjust how you approach your own things that make you you, like the things that just make you who you are, right? In a different way. They don't have to be weird. They don't have to make us feel like the odd one out. They do because of society and how we've been programmed to believe things should look and feel and be. And, don't even get me started on like my theories about how they don't want anybody woken up. And again, I am not implicating that you believe anything here. Implying. I'm not implying that you believe any specific thing here. But whatever you believe, is probably better than like having no hope at all for humanity, right? So I encourage you not to fall asleep. But the waking up, how do we even do the waking up, right? The waking up. How do you take your fitness and health journey and make it a life transformation? And so the very first piece is self-love. Like it all stems from love, really. And I know it can be kind of exhausting to hear that, and it probably even seems a little cheesy. And so I want to dig into that a little bit too. Um, I'm not talking about like just like, oh, I love myself. Oh, I love myself so much every day. This is something that I do regularly, absolutely. But I don't we are not, when I say self-love, we are not talking about coddling ourselves, right? I'm talking about holding a higher standard of life for yourself. Everyone has, I don't care what your situation is, like even if you live in, low income housing, you're on state assistance and you're watching this right now, you have a dream life. You have a dream. Everyone has a dream life. And one of the biggest shifts I made to learn to love myself, even with all I've experienced, even with all of the reasons I had not to love myself, even with just life, right? If I didn't learn to love myself, I was never going to let someone else love me. I was never going to experience the kind of love I wanted in the relationships that I had, right? And we hear this a lot. But then for me to be in the gym trying to produce a result with my body, it's like, well, your body's not going to do anything if it doesn't feel appreciated for what it's already doing. And I had never appreciated it for what it was already doing. And so just like a child, it's going to be like, no, I don't need to change. And I'm not going to listen to you because you're not listening to me, because you are not listening to me. And so, like I said on Friday, growing up, like I said, I have all my own traumas, and I was always the weird one, always the odd one out, always like collecting rocks and seashells. And like I said, I saw things, heard things, felt things that nobody else ever did. There was, when I was in kindergarten, I got sent home from school one day because I told the teacher that my sister had died in a plane crash. And the teacher was distraught. She was like, oh my God, what? So they called my mom and it was a whole thing. But you guys, this is a real memory I have. And to this day, this is still a very, very vivid memory that I have. And things like this have happened to me my entire life. And I just thought that I was kind of crazy and that my imagination was just a little wild and it would just hear things or catch other stories and then like make it my own, Sometimes I would be like, Desiree, like, why do you want these kind of things to happen to you? Like, what? What I realized is I didn't want those kind of things to happen to me. They were actually happening or had already happened. Like from a very young age, I have been very spiritually in tune. I've heard things, seen things, touched things that maybe other probably don't. I just know things. Like I'm a very intuitive person. And so everybody has kind of their own clair gift. Clair is a way that we can see into the future. So clairvoyance is like actually seeing into the future. Clairaudience is hearing things from the future. But it's not always from the future. It can be like in different realms and dimensions. It can be from the dead, right? So it could be from the living. It could be, I can sometimes hear what someone is thinking or I just know what they're thinking. And then they're like, how did you know that? And I'm like, my intuition said that. And yes, part of it is knowing how to read body language and knowing how to read, micro movements. But a lot of it is I just know already. And I remember thinking that it was so strange, that I was strange, that I was weird, that this was not right, that I didn't belong here. And it wasn't until about 3 years ago, it was just before COVID lockdown, the great lockdown of 2020. And I was living in Seattle at the time. So definitely was a deep lockdown. And I noticed that even though I was saying I was doing all of these things out of love, I was still calling myself weird. I was still calling myself strange. I was still calling myself just weird little phrases or names that maybe like someone who loves themselves doesn't call themselves these things because they know that this is just who they are and they love themselves for it, right? So I was also at a point where I had plateaued again in my own personal fitness journey. And so even though I had lost the 115 pounds, I had plateaued. I was putting a ton of pressure on myself, right? We're locked in the house, you guys, locked in the house. We're bored in the house and we're in the house bored. And I'm like, why are you losing weight, Bonnie? Why? Ah! Okay, because we were all stressed because the world had just locked down. That's why. Now, knowing what I know, I'm like, man, if you had just given yourself a little time, all you had was time anyways. You were just sitting there. That's right. You had to sit there for 3 months, remember? Oh, hindsight is 2020, right? But anyways, so a lot of you guys have heard this story. My best friend asked me, why are you putting so much pressure on yourself? What are you in a rush to do? And it's nothing. There was nothing. The only thing I was in a rush to do was to get my results. I was being impatient, right? And I wasn't acknowledging all of the layers of healing that needed to be done for my individual experience to transcend itself, right? I was so tired of getting stuck at the same wall, of the same barrier. And I even started gaining the weight back because I was that tired of it, right? Like I was like, well, screw it. Like, whatever. I guess eat this much forever and work out this way forever and just maintain this forever. And hey, at least other people are impressed by it. At least other people will be impressed by it. And so for so long, I was making decisions in my life that were about other people and how other people would describe me and if other people would accept me and if other people would love me, if other people would accept me and see me. To live a life unseen is so lonely. It's so lonely to feel like nobody sees you, to feel like nobody understands your daily existence is really lonely. It makes me a little emotional. And so I didn't want to live that way forever, right? I was tired of living that way. And I just thought for me, the same as you, which is that like, oh, if I could just figure out my body, then everything else would figure itself out. And yeah, kind of. But actually what happened is I mastered my body and then I was like, this is how I get to master everything else now. Do you see, Desiree? Do you see how you had to take this step and this step, but then because you skipped that one step in between, you had to go back and then you got to repeat it again from the beginning. Now we've got 1, 2, and 3. Oh, but now you skipped to 6, so we got to go back, learn 4 and 5 again. Okay, let's start again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, you skipped all the way to 10. Now we got to go back and do it again. You see? And so even in my journey, like I had my own set of lessons, you guys. I never, ever, ever want anybody to feel like, wow, Des has it all together and she's got it so figured out. And like she makes it sound so easy to be this spiritual savage, to be someone who understands her body, so connected to her body, knows what to do with her fitness, knows what to do with her food, knows what to do in her life, knows how to listen to her intuition. You guys, I'm still figuring out how to listen to my intuition. This is a daily practice. These are daily conversations that happen within me. Okay? And I will be forever figuring out how to listen to my intuition because I spent 30 years, almost 30 years of my life denying it. Almost 30 years of my life shutting it down. Almost 30 years of my life putting a gag in its mouth and saying, shut up, because the world doesn't want to hear you. And so I am still practicing too. I'm always a student. But what I find is that we never know everything about anything. But what I do know is how to help you take those lessons from the gym, like we need rest. You probably need more rest than you think. Or doing scary things, facing our fears. I started doing that for real, like for real in the gym. And then when you learn in the gym that facing your fears, what's the worst that could happen? You could fail, which I don't believe in failure. I only believe in learning. So if the worst thing that could happen is you fail and you don't lift the weight, it's not going to end your world, right? Nothing substantial if you don't lift that weight. Go to squat 300 pounds, fail. Okay, you're going to feel a little bad that you failed if you really wanted that PR, but you're not going to like lose your home or your job or your car, right? It's not like a life-threatening situation. There's no pertinent needs that it directly affects. And what it helps us do is build actually a little bit of tenacity. You would think in a way that it might like affect your self-esteem. And of course, at first it does. At first it does. At first, when you miss that PR, you're like, oh man, because I've been there, done that. And it does suck. The first couple of minutes, you're having this conversation with yourself. And then you hear the conversation you're having with yourself. And then you look down at your weight from last time. And even though you didn't hit that particular PR, you still hit 5 pounds more than you did last time. And so did I really fail or did I just learn something new today? And that lesson, when I took that lesson and applied it to the rest of my life, whoa. Talk about attitude change. Like from someone who suffers with chemical on a biological, physiological level, my body just gets depressed. Okay. It just happens. Like everything could be fine in my life and I still wake up depressed. But you know that I still now, because I have the skill of being able to say, ugh, great. I failed by waking up this morning because I'm depressed. But actually, what am I learning right now? What am I learning today? I have to be grateful for today. That one shift in the gym is how I run my life. It's how I run my life. And it has improved my quality of life. It has improved how I make decisions. It has improved how I handle when my mental illness can be a big monster, because sometimes she's pretty small, but sometimes she gets nice and big. It is what it is. It is what it is. And I hate to even call it like mental illness because it's not an illness. But even that, even shifting around that, like even considering these things a gift, consider these things make me very sensitive. These make me very sensitive to people's energy. It is a gift, though. It is why people who love me. One of the reasons that people who love me is because I have such a big heart and I am so sensitive and I'm so in tune. Like I will cry with you. Okay. I'm never going to be like, oh, don't cry. Absolutely not. If you need to cry, I am here for you and I will cry with you, not to take it away from you, but to feel your feelings with you and experience it with you. And then I'm also going to give you a kiss and help you feel better. But that is what makes me who I am. That is one of the parts that people who love me. That's what they love me for, right? That's part of what makes me me. And so I spent so much of my life trying to choke that down. I spent so much of my life like, oh, don't be so sensitive, Desiree. You don't need to be so sensitive. Not everybody wants you to be so sensitive. This can be some people are really triggered by like you crying right now or you being sensitive about this right now. But then I'm never expressing my truth. And then again, I'm isolating myself, right? This is part of depression because you don't express yourself. You isolate because you're depressed, because you feel like you can't express yourself. It's a vicious cycle. Oh my goodness. And so this is how you take the lessons that you get from the gym. This is how you take the lessons that you learn in your fitness journey and change your life, change your body, become unlimited in what you are capable of, not just in your life, but like if we're going to get really specific, in your health and fitness journey. I have so many conversations with so many of you, usually when you first come to my page, about how like, oh, I just wish I could change this one thing about my body. I just wish I could shift this one part about my body. I just wish I could do this one thing. And sure, there might be some habits, some habits that you're missing, but a lot of it usually comes down to you don't believe in yourself. You don't love yourself. You don't actually consider yourself worthy of the change that you want to see in your life. And so you are still here. You are still sitting in this one place because it's so scary to know what could be if you just believed in yourself and didn't care what other people thought. And just embrace that you're probably always going to be the weird one. When I learned to embrace that I was always going to be the weird one, I became unweird. Isn't that funny how that happens? All of a sudden, all the people around me also had these clairvoyant gifts. All of a sudden, all of the people around me really accepted me and loved me because I was able to really accept and love myself. So be weird, be strange. Redefine what that even means to yourself, right? Redefine what is strange. Strange could be wonderful. Weird can be amazing. That's to you. But at some point, you get to decide when you stop letting other people determine, or society or capitalism or conditioning or anything else determine how you feel about you. Because how you feel about you is how you're going to operate and make any decision. And if you're coming from a place of hate, if you're coming from a place of dislike, if you're coming from a place of disgust, from a place, God, why am I me? Then nothing's going to change. And it's always going to feel miserable. And that is why I'm always telling you guys, you got to start with loving yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, you can do all the things you want in the gym, with your food, with your spiritual hygiene, with your mental health, and you're still not going to see any change. Because the body reads that energy too. And again, if she doesn't feel like that energy is the kind she needs, she's going to be like, yeah, right. You're cute, but yeah, right. So, hi, Tisha. So, all of that being said, something that's been heavy on my heart these last couple of months is how do I, because also I'm a healer. This is my role in the world. I've accepted it. And then after pretty closely after accepting that, I started thinking, how do I give people this information? Like, how do I help you see that it really is just a couple of things that we need to learn in the gym and then apply to the rest of our life to start seeing these shifts? And then from there, the evolution will just keep naturally occurring, because once you have that system figured out, I'm not saying it's going to be figured out for the rest of your life, because no, life happens, trauma happens, change happens. And what we get to do is come back to those tools that we learned and like, okay, now how do I take these tools and apply them to the situation, right? So then the practice becomes applying them to every situation until we start making different decisions. And if your decision is just a little bit different from the last time, then that's growth. That's growth. It's not going to be perfect right away. But how do I show you? How do I teach this to you? It was really a stressor for me for a couple of months. I'm like, oh my gosh, so many people need to know this. So what I've done is develop a program, of course, because I'm a coach. I've built a program specifically for my spiritual savages. And I'm going to be dropping this program in a few different ways, because something that was also heavy on my heart when building this was that I wanted anyone coming from any situation, economically, depending on their time, like how much time they have to spend on this, how much energy they have to spend on this, if they even want a fitness program, right? Like I played with all the different ways that I could break this up, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it in all the ways. But I'm going to drop them one piece at a time, right? So as to not overwhelm myself, so that I can be the coach that you need and show up presently when you ask me for advice about a specific class or the program itself. So what is the program, right? You're like, okay, great. What are we going to do, Des? So it's called Spiritual Savage. And the purpose of this program is to not only get you 6 months of health and fitness training, to help you figure out whatever little idiosyncrasies you haven't been able to figure out on your own and get the customized planning that you need, and also teach you how to do it on your own once you no longer have me, because the whole point of me is to hopefully never need anyone again. And with this fitness program comes a course that is going to run you through your astrological signs, your whole chart, what your soul contract is, what the heck a soul contract even is in the first place, why you hear and see and know things that other people do not, and what to do about it, how to handle that in this world, because that's overwhelming as fuck. Oh my gosh, we're going to talk about human design. We're going to talk about how that plays a role in your life. You guys, human design has been the biggest game changer, one of the biggest game changers in my own personal development journey, especially after figuring out my health and fitness, because human design helps you operate in the world on a global scale. How does what I do, how do the decisions I make contribute to the collective? And if you're someone like me who actually wants to make the world a better place, whether or not you're doing that through your job, it's really important to learn how we can work together in teams, right? How can I be the best I can be individually to help then the collective prosper? Such cool stuff. We're going to talk about spiritual cleansing. We're going to talk about how the nervous system plays a part in our spiritual health, how there's actually real science behind spirituality, and what that looks like for you. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but there's classes upon classes upon classes within the program itself. And then, like I said, I'm going to be creating a couple of variations so that no matter what, you can join us. So this week, we are focusing on just Spiritual Savage as a complete program, okay? So if I call to you, if this resonated with you, if anything I post for the rest of the week resonates with you, and you're like, you know what, I'm in, sign me up, then this is the week that you will get the entire program. So 6 months of customized health, fitness, wellness, nutrition training, and the Spiritual Savage program on top of that. Okay, so if you're interested, go ahead and drop #savage or just drop savage in the comments. I will reach out to you personally. Like I said, we'll be talking about it all week, so you will have some chances. I'm going to go into a couple different details about it throughout the week, and then you'll get to see what happens from there. Okay, guys, thank you so much for coming to my live this morning. I appreciate you guys that were able to pop in and out. I didn't realize it was President's Day, so I'm glad I did it today, actually. I'm glad that some of you guys were able to make it. So yes, drop savage in the comments, DM me savage, anything savage, and I'll respond to it. And I hope you guys have the best freaking Monday of your lives. Coach Des is out. Bye.